Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Distant Tourist Podcast, the podcast where each week we look at one of Japan's 47 prefectures. I'm Robert.
I'm Thomas.
And this week we're kind of switching up gears and taking a look at one of Japan's, more out-of-the-way kind of prefectures, I'd say. Thomas, where are we going?
We are going to Tottori.
And, yeah, Tottori, I guess I should preface this by saying we're going to have a lot of overlap on the places that we wanted to go this week.
Tottori is known as the least populated one of the least populated prefectures in Japan. So if you are very much of something that's kind of off the beaten path, Tottori is really a fun place to be.
Yeah, I definitely think that what we did find, I think, is definitely worth taking the couple of days to go take a look around. I guess since we both have a lot of overlap, do you kind of want to introduce our first topic this week?
We can. I think the Tottori is mostly known for sand dunes. It has the biggest sand dunes in Japan, all of Japan. And this is really the big staple of Tottori Prefecture is these sand dunes.
Mm.
There are a lot of activities you can do there, like paragliding and sandboarding.
Like, as in what? I just take a board and just start sliding around on.
It's almost like a snowboard kind of thing. There's some where you strap in, there's some where you don't. But from what I could tell, it looks more like kind of like surfing. So you are on a board going down, like snowboarding.
Mm.
You could either be standing up, but you could also be sitting down on the board, or you could be on your belly on the board.
Mm. Now, like, I'm assuming these dunes are very large to facilitate, boarding down them.
Yes. So even in terms of paragliding, usually when people think about that, it's usually like jumping off a cliff or a really big thing that you're jumping off of and that you float down. Well, you're going from the top of a dune to the bottom, which in itself is not inherently extremely like a long distance down. However, you still have a lot of air time on a paraglider, and you can stick the landing. So you can be in the air for usually probably about a minute to 2 minutes tops, which isn't that very long, but it still is pretty fun. But also, if you do end up falling, or like something happens and, the worst you could do is maybe spraying something, I believe. I don't think it's far like high enough that you could break something. Also, you're landing in sand. I don't know if that's any help at all.
I mean, it's better than landing on rocks. So
True, that is very true. But there's that. I would probably be more into the sandboarding, just because it would seem a lot more fun to just kind of zigzag down the dunes.
I don't have sandboarding experience, but I will say, growing up, I went to this place with, like, just a giant pit of sand, and one of the things that we did was we brought like this just thing of cardboard, just slid down it. I'm not gonna lie, the speed that you can get, like, 'cause it was a very steep just pit of sand, was just really fun, at least for a fourth grader. But I'm curious to see if the board changes the aerodynamics behind it or in any sort of way.
Kind of. I think it would be similar. You might get a little bit more speed and be able to control it a lot better. But that's essentially sandboarding in a nutshell. So yes, that's something that I would definitely do, and that's definitely Tottori's biggest, I guess, attraction of the prefecture.
Yeah, apparently the dunes are so vast that they even filmed a movie that I saw recently called Woman in the Dunes. And, like, quick synopsis, basically, guy gets stuck in a basically pit within the sand with a woman. It's kind of an existential dread kind of film, but, like, it was funny because when I first saw the picture of Tottori, I didn't know it was, like, the filming location. So when I saw it, I was just like, it's the place. He was trapped here. But that's just me being a cinephile.
But I mean, I think that would be. I've never watched the movie, so that might be interesting. I mean, it'd be interesting being stuck in a dude.
It,
I don't think there is pits that big though in
I'm
Totally.
almost
I think it was probably manufactured for the movie solely.
yeah. I almost am certain that it was that way. Um, yeah, it's a very slow burn movie, so definitely I'd recommend just setting some time aside and just experiencing it because it's just that much more effective that way.
Yes. But that is the biggest attraction. There is also the sand museum that they have there.
Mm,
So when people usually talk about Totori, they think about either sand dunes or this museum. Because
mm,
in this museum has huge, I guess, sand sculptures slash sand castles,
mm.
where people have pretty much used the sand at the dunes in order to make art and
So,
stuff like that.
so kind of similar to like the Hokkaido Snow Festival, but just with sand this time.
Yes, and it's a lot more permanent.
Oh, okay.
In Hokkaido with the snow festival, they make these amazing sculptures, but it's made out of snow and ice, so it melts. It melts.
Yeah.
That's what happens. But um, with the whole sand stuff, it's not gonna go anywhere. It is sand. So they pretty much put it up into this museum for everyone to see, so you can go and see these massive sculptures made out of sand.
No, that's pretty impressive. I definitely like to take a look at that. I mean, especially after seeing this few pictures that I did. I'm reminded of oh my god, what's the term? The Terracotta Army? I forget the term. Basically, the hidden army with all the
Oh yes,
yeah. That from the pictures, that was just the first my instinctual like, oh, looks kind of like that, but obviously not as like vast or like large.
yes and no. As someone that's very much into Asian history and stuff like that,
Mm.
it's kind of weird trying to compare them.
Mm.
Because they're both made out of something different, kind of. So,
Mm. I mean, this is very much coming from somebody who's ignorant to like the intricacies of it.
yeah, but I mean, in terms of having a massive scale sculptures,
Mm.
yes, I would say yes to that in that terms. But
Mm.
there's so much history in the other thing that I could go on and on about, but
Not this time.
yeah, but that's also really in China,
Mm.
and this is more Japan, Nihon.
Yeah.
But yeah, the museum is absolutely huge. This is like the second biggest thing there.
Mm.
Other than that, the other thing that I found interesting was the Uradome
Mm.
coast or Uradome coast. I'm pretty sure it's Uradome.
Mm.
But this area is like one of the biggest coastlines in Japan.
Mm.
Like, or not the, in terms of longest, it's not that. It's more of most popular.
Okay.
There's boat tours you can go on to. Apparently, it's also a really big snorkeling and diving area that you can do. So if you're into any of those, that's good. But also, something that I would definitely want to do is kayaking.
Oh, they give kayaking there?
There's kayaking things there, so they can teach you how to kayak.
Mm.
But what makes it special is their kayaks are clear. They have clear kayaks,
Oh.
and the water is supposed to be so clear you can see straight to the bottom.
Mm.
So usually, if you're on a nice, beautiful, clear day, you can take out the kayak and you can see straight down to the floor, the ocean floor, while just kayaking around because the water is just so clear.
At that point, I think I just want to go scuba diving, but maybe it'd be better in the winter. I'm not sure.
Well, I think it would be fun because then one, you're not really getting fully wet, and then you're just kind of looking down, and then also, I've never really done diving or anything like that. So
I've got very light experience, but I just, from my experience, like being kind of up close and seeing like all of the different kind of life and stuff is just kind of more enjoyable.
yeah, I know that I've personally been kayaking before, and I thoroughly enjoy it. Also, for the kayaking, what makes it really different than all the other ones, even the boat tour, because there are boat tours that you can look at the coastline and be like, wow, that's absolutely stunning. You can actually get up and close and go through like these caves. There's multiple little like cave areas you can go into that go all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really like exploring the coastline versus like observing it from afar.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's even some spots where, you know, if you're trying to do diving or anything like that, you wouldn't want to go into really a cave just in case if something happens.
Yeah.
Where you can get in with a kayak. I personally enjoy kayaking a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that's a lot of fun. I've been on a lake. Where I'm from, there's a lake called Whiskey Town Lake,
Of course there is.
and that lake, I was out there. The first time I was ever kayaking, I went out there, and it was horrible weather. It was really kind of windy and cloudy weather. So I was really going against these massive waves that were coming at me. And I remember loving it because at the time I didn't have a very fancy kayak. Where nowadays there's kayaks that just kind of cut right through the waves. It's just the more money you get, the more nice and smooth the ride is. The one I got was like, I wanted to learn if I'm into kayaking, and I got like an inflatable kayak.
I didn't even know they made them inflatable.
Oh yeah, they're a lot cheaper, a lot more portable. Highly recommend if you were like unsure about kayaking, and you don't have a car to really a big enough car to put a whole kayak on top of.
And these are still the same thin kind of looking boats, or
Yeah, they're still like the size of a regular kayak. It's just inflatable.
interesting.
And it has multiple layers. So if you're worried that like you're just gonna puncture it, there's multiple layers to it of air that you like fill in into different compartments. So like if something does have a hole in it, you can still stay afloat. But I got one of those and I was just flying off waves pretty much because it wasn't cutting through anything because it was an inflatable one. And so I was just going up and down with the like against the waves. I just remember having a lot of fun. It was like raining too at the time. I felt like a pirate. It was a lot of fun. But yes, anyway, back to kayaking in Japan. The area is a lot more still, clear, so it's really just kind of beautiful. The kayaks they give you, or if you go through a kayak, like rent a kayak, is very nice premium kayaks, so you can just kind of go through. I know that Totori has been trying to get more people to come to their prefecture, especially like in terms of the coastline and stuff like that. The few things that I did see, pretty much the owners of the companies or the like the kayaking businesses or even just a lot of the locals are just like, yeah, you know, this place is absolutely beautiful. We just wish that more people would come to visit.
Yeah. So it's not like there's a lot of opportunity there.
Yeah, there's the times that I did see there wasn't that many people at the dunes, even though it was Totori's biggest attraction. There wasn't that many people there. Same thing with the museum and same thing with the coastline. Maybe it has to be during a different time of the year. I would imagine the Uradome coastline during the summer would be absolutely beautiful because it would be nice warm water, so you could also, if you're doing snorkeling or diving, it would be amazing. And then also, you know, it'd be nice and clear. It's supposed to be one of the clearest spots for it. So yes, I think that would be extremely interesting and fun. But I know that Totori is very much kind of wanting more people to come to their prefecture. But to be honest, as really all I could find for my research was those main things was what really caught my eye and something that I would definitely want to do. What about you? Did you find anything else other than the sand dunes?
Yeah, so I mean, kind of like I said at the beginning, like that we had a lot of overlap going into this, and those two were the first attractions that I found immediately. But kind of searching a little deeper, I did find, you know, one or two things that I was just like, oh, that's actually pretty cool. Like for example, they have the Totori Hanakaido Flower Park, and it's like uh, like you imagine, it's just basically just a large garden, and it's kind of like split into certain sections. And so like there's an entrance like section, kind of like a hub, and then if you go down one of the like pathways, there's just a dome, like kind of like a arboretum, kind of within it.
Okay.
Um, and then around the dome is like four different sections of different like flowers. And so from what I could tell, there are flowers blooming all year round because they are so constantly shifting the type of flowers they have planted at any given season. So
So it's a constant rotation then.
yeah, like there will always be
Mm.
flowers blooming. Like, oh, I went during the winter, so it doesn't look like I'm gonna get to see anything. No, they probably have already planted something that's gonna thrive during that time. Um,
Mm.
so already I was interested because I'm a sucker for good colors and flowers. I'm not like a very big like, oh, I can understand what type of flower this is.
Botanist stuff.
Yeah, I'm not a botanist, but I do appreciate a good showmanship and just a good display of flowers. Surprisingly, it was actually a little hard for me to find pictures inside the dome, but when I finally did, uh, they had like a lot of strange and random different types of plants and flowers in there. Saw palm trees, like orchids, just a lot of stuff. But like someone had commented that it looked kind of like some weird space display by the way it looked like a dome, and like I kind of agree, but at the same time I'm like, no, like I mean it looks kind of like arboretums I've seen, except it's just more round instead of square because I've been to one or two, and usually like they're very well sectioned off, but this one's just kind of more
Free
like
form almost.
in a way like there's still like some separated sections, but they're more of a circular, appearing more freeform design, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, that's also because I think in terms of like gardens
Mm.
in Japan, I think they have like some of the most beautiful and amazing gardens because they were thinking about gardens and how to form their gardens since the Heian period. For like couple thousand years at least, they've been really planning out gardens of like and having debates of, okay, should I plant a cherry blossom tree or should I plant a different tree? I forgot the name of it off the top of my head, but a maple tree, that's what it is. Or should I plant a maple tree? So then pretty much the big debate is, do you want your garden to flourish and look beautiful in the fall or in the spring? And so they've been considering, garden, I guess, making and displays for thousands of years. So I think they've gotten really good at it. So that's why usually I would love to go to like one of their gardens because it's just usually just so well thought out. Like you said, going to different, no matter what season you go to, they have something going.
Yeah. And definitely one of the things that I also found surprising because I did not know this going in. They have crazy like insane light displays going on. Like, like if you come at night, like usually like some places, like maybe in the winter you'll see like a bunch of white lights, just wintry look. Sometimes they have light displays with fireworks going off in the background. Like it's very much the center of, we have this garden, but we're also gonna go that extra mile to like up that showmanship to like go crazy, even if we got fireworks or just make it all wintry looking. Like the showmanship is just like on point from what I've seen, which I'm a little jealous of. I can't even get my own lights in my computer to synchronize, but like
Yeah.
I mean I've kind of already started by saying it that I like the colors, and I'm kind of just a sucker for good colors in this case.
Which just adds that little extra something to it.
Yeah, like it didn't have to do that, but it just chose to anyway, and I definitely respect it for that. So yeah, that was the Totori Hanakaido Flower Park.
Where else would you go?
All right, so getting back on track, the last place I would go is possibly Mount Mitoku, which at first by itself didn't seem like like something I'd be like too interested in because I'm not the hiking man. But what I found out is that they have the oh my god, I have issues explaining this or pronouncing this, Nage Iredo Temple, which is like this temple that is um, built into the side of a cliff
Oh,
on the mountain. Which at first I was like, I mean, okay, but you probably have like uh, some, some safe, simple way to get there. Now you got to climb tree roots and like apparently like there's even a pathway within the cliff to get there.
oh, okay.
Um, which I thought was interesting because I mean, while we've talked about how insane the hiking routes get,
That is insane.
yeah, like it's not just simple going straight up the mountain. It's like, oh, we're going to just make it on the side of the cliff and good luck. To be fair, that was supposed to be like part of I think the journey. The history is somewhat confusing to me. It was supposed to be like one of these trials for I believe asceticism. I cannot pronounce it correctly to save my life, but it was like one of the trials they did was to get to that temple, which makes sense considering how insane the route's been. It frustrated me a little because I couldn't see like the exact route you take, which I'm guessing a few pictures I've probably taken while going through the whole route. Um, but if for whatever reason going onto a cliffside to look at a temple isn't exactly your cup of tea, there is of course the Monjudo temple at the top, which is a more, I believe, a Buddhist temple. So it's a more, you know, your normal safer type of temple, but it's still quite the trek just to get up the mountain.
Is it so the first temple is on the side of the mountain and then the other temple is just right at the top?
Yeah,
Okay.
like I mean, you know, if you just want your temple just be that extra, like like I was talking about with the flower park, you gotta just commit to that showmanship. And like I don't want to like trivialize it by saying like, oh, it's just showmanship, because from what I've read, because I only had a bit of time to look into the history behind it, it very much seemed like it was part of a uh, more serious ritual. To what extent I did not get a good chance uh, to explore, but it definitely seemed like it was a much more important section of the of a sort of journey or pilgrimage for followers of, I believe, asceticism. I gotta correct myself on that in post, but I cannot pronounce it to save my life.
It just sounds so interesting to have to like go through, like climb up all that stuff just to be at the temple on the side. Also, the making of it must have been interesting. That's just how I think, is like, it's really interesting that it's there, but how did it get there?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was the other weird thing, was that I couldn't get a super concrete answer on that one. It was just like, oh well, it's there, which is a little frustrating. And if I get a chance, I'd like to delve deeper into it when I have my own time. But for the sake of this one, I think it's definitely worth taking a look at if you're feeling a little on the riskier side.
Living on the edge.
Yeah, living on the edge, climbing the tree roots, doing the hardcore parkour kind of thing. But yeah, that was really the only other thing I found for Totori. I know it's not as dense with activities as some of our older episodes. But I think there's definitely something to be said about just even the simplicity and the things that you can find there.
Even though it is a somewhat small prefecture and doesn't have a whole bunch of people in there, from what I understand, the people are just genuinely so nice and pleasant. Also, there's other smaller things you can do. Like, there is, like, the scenery there is absolutely stunning. So even though there is no, like, official parks or anything like that, if you just stay in a city there, you can see just a beautiful river and stuff like that. Beautiful scenery. There's even a eatery that I can't remember the name of, but there's an eatery that you sit right by a river, and then they freshly pick like natural things from that area to serve you.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes. So I mean, there's things like that that's there, but it's because there hasn't been a lot of people going there. It's really hard to find these places in these areas. So I mean, I honestly would absolutely love to go here to find those areas. And so, yes, I think that's the biggest thing, is that it just needs to be found, I guess.
And I think if we ever get the chance to go ourselves and take a look at it, I think we'll have a much more in-depth, I think, report on it than we do at this time. I know that definitely being there yourself is a better teacher than, like, reading about it. I'm excited to see the dunes. I definitely want to see the coast. I'm pretty sure you're in the same kind of boat on that one.
I definitely want to try sandboarding. That sounds extremely fun. I only remember the only thing that I've been equivalent to, kind of like stepping away from snow. I tried snowboarding, but when I was a kid, I invented something called dirt boarding.
And what's dirt boarding?
Well, this only happened once. So we were doing a nature trip for school, and we went out, and I was always in the front. I love nature, and that was apparent way back as a kid, but I was pretty much at the front of the pack, like right by the I think it was like some sort of, it wasn't like a scoutmaster, but it was like a camp thing. So I was right by the camp leader, and he asked me to stay behind to point out like a thing. I think it was like a tree that he wanted me to point out to everyone, and he's like, "Oh yeah, when you're done, just come back up to the front, And so after I was done, I was at the very back, and we're kind of going down a hill, and there's a bunch of loose gravel off to the side. I just kind of got like a running start and jumped and slid and just kind of like rode the dirt all the way back to the front. I can't remember.
Body slider.
No. Like I was full standing, as if I was like skateboarding or snowboarding. I was just straight standing and just sliding all the way down, because the dirt was so loose. It just carried my momentum all the way down, past everyone.
Yeah.
I don't remember much from that trip, but I do remember that, because I remember just being like, man, that was a lot of fun, and I felt really cool doing it.
It's definitely a special type of sport that I think you found.
Yeah, I don't know if I would call it a sport. It's probably more of just me being a kid,
having fun.
Yeah, doing something stupid that could have ended horrible. I could have tried getting a running start and just ended up face planting instead, if the dirt was like not loose enough.
And just said nope.
Yeah, but anyway, on that note,
yeah,
I think we're gonna call this episode. Unfortunately, it was a shorter episode. Hopefully, a lot more stuff happens in Totori.
I'm definitely excited to see if anything happens there. I'd really like to see it grow.
I think it will grow. It just needs more people to kind of explore there and kind of go there, for them to actually be able to have more things for people to do. But anyway, leaving off on that, we'd like to thank you guys for listening and watching again. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you want to, it'd be cool if you hit that subscribe button, but you don't have to. Also, if you guys wanted to check us up on the Instagram at distant_tourists, we are there. We post up a picture and let you guys know exactly when our episode is out. So if you wanted to kind of keep up that way, by all means, drop a follow there. And thank you guys so much for listening.
Thank you.